Okay, so as you can see, it's sort of dried out. This looks fine. That looks medium. That doesn't look too bad actually there in the corner. Over here doesn't look great. So I've been talking, looking, listening, learning, as always. And if I was going to double all of this in plasterboard, there would be a few problems with that. The first problem is the amount of space I would lose. So if you look at this wall, for example, you can see quite clearly compared to the door that it goes up like that. Now, if I was going to double that wall, then I'd have to start at the bottom with a space and then go up, which would leave me a lot of space here, much more space than I really want. So I'm not going to do that. What I am going to do is plaster it. And I've been down and spoken to the builders, and I've got the plaster that they recommend. So that shouldn't be too bad. But first, I'm going to give it another layer of this base coat to stop too much seepage. Now, there were a few people who sort of said, well, you shouldn't use acrylic base coats because, I don't know, because I think they capture humidity. So these are paints that are designed to breathe and designed to let the wall breathe. So I'm not particularly concerned about that. But I do need to scrape off a little bit where it's not good. You see, most of this is on here pretty well, but now I've painted it, it seems to have come a little bit looser, more than when I was at it with the high pressure washer. And other bits, like here, are solid as a rock, like that. That's all solid, so is that. But this bit here is ready to come off. So I'm going to have to go and have a scrape, a bit of a scrape. I can just let it fall on the ground. And then I'm going to give it another quick coat of breathable undercoat. And then we'll plaster it over the next couple of days. We'll start plastering it before I have to go home. And we'll see if any of the brown seeps through the plaster. See, it's quite funny because it was much harder than that, and now it's sort of ready to come off. It's still pretty black behind that though. So yeah, I'm going to go get a scraper, do a bit of scraping, just a little bit, and then some painting. So interestingly enough, the only places where it's coming off is where it's dark. Where it's light, you have to have a really good scrape, but where it is a bit darker, it's like it's still a bit wet, or was a bit wet maybe from the pressure washing, and has come out, but where it's taken the paint properly, it's not going anywhere. So all of this, that's paint that's coming off, but there's basically stone underneath it. This here isn't too bad, although I've left a bit of a mark there, but where it gets dark over here, it's sort of a bit mushy. It still doesn't come off particularly easy, but it does sort of bring back a bit. Certain bits of it come off, and then other bits you have to properly lever off onto the stone. So there we go. And then there were quite a few comments that said sandblast the walls and keep everything in stone. But if you've ever had, and I have had, a jointed stone wall in a kitchen, you'll know that it's a nightmare and one of the foolishest things you can do in a kitchen, because all of the dust mixes with the fat and the water vapor and stuff from cooking, and it sort of sits on the stones, and after 2 or 3 years it just looks terrible. I had this in France for many years and I regretted it continually, because it was terrible. You want nice smooth walls in a kitchen. Everywhere else you can have stone, it's just, attracts dust. And most of these houses, no matter what you think, weren't designed to be open stone. They were designed to be plastered or rendered with something, mostly lime admittedly, but still rendered. So there we go. Anyway, I'm going to scrape off some more and then I'm going to get the paint going. So what intrigues me is that this is obviously just mud that's been put on here. but the walls are black behind, and then the mud is brown, and then the front of the mud is black again. So it looks like this was done at some point after they started smoking for some reason, and I have no idea why at all. But this is burnt stone behind, and if you look, you can see that that's not it's peculiar. It doesn't come off super easy, mud. So if little bits stay, I can sometimes get, that's a satisfying bit. So a little bit stay, I'm not worried, because the plaster will adhere to it quite well, and there's plenty of gaps. But I am on this, at least on this back wall, I'm going to take off quite a bit there and here. Up at the top, there's very little to do, not particularly concerned about that. Over here, I'm going to have another go. It's pouring with rain out there. And the rest is fine. So get it off and then give it another quick spray of undercoat. And then hopefully tomorrow morning I can mix up a cement mixer and start plastering. So if you look, there are even stones that have been added sort of when they were plastering. It's a bit weird, but there we go. I'm going to take off and paint, and it just means that I wasted a bit of paint yesterday on this bit of wall, but it did identify exactly where the problem zones are, because down here you see no problem at all. And obviously I'm chipping off the paint, but there's nothing seeping through there, so that's fixed to the wall properly. Up here, you can see it's just a little bit softer. It feels just a bit softer, so it crumbles off. So yeah, I think the plaster probably would have held here too, but everywhere it's dark, I'm going to take off. And I have no idea why they didn't do that bit, but they just spread some mud over this wall here and that wall there. This is cement. This is the water pipe that went to the loo. So that explains why that's something different. But that, in fact, has been cemented straight on top of the mud and has held very well. So there we go. So it's about 3:30 in the afternoon. It's not late, but it's almost dark because of all this horrible rain. I've taken everything off on this wall that needs to come off. As you can see, black underneath the mud, which is now down here. And the black stones just painted white because somehow that works. There's perhaps a little bit more to scrape off, 1 or 2 stones, but that's just a couple of millimeters. I've moved on to over here, where what's white is for some reason sort of like a cement mortar. It's much thinner over here, and the stones don't seem dark underneath. So because it's thinner, it doesn't come off as easily. But I'm sort of hacking at it a bit now. I wasn't just taking off what would fall off. I've decided to do it halfway properly. So as you can see, this is very different. There's still some sooty bits, but most of it isn't so bad. It's it's surprising how different it goes across just 2 different walls. So I've got probably about another half an hour to get this top bit off here, and then I'll get the paint all set up over there. I'll get that straight done, because then I'm going to paint the bottom of the walls. I just want to fix everything above. The bottoms are fixed enough. So there we go. Let's get this done. Well, so as you can see, it's not just crumbling off. It's taking quite a lot of work to get it off. But we're almost there now, just literally this little bit here. Everything else will be fine. So, yeah, there we go. Up at the top, there's hardly any at all. I'll scrape off a little bit where I can, but not worried because that'll be plastered up. Okay, there we go. You zoom out. So, yeah, I ended up taking quite a lot off. And there, and I'm going to paint over it and see what happens. So, again, breathable fixer. Oh, I need to do the back of that. I'll do that quickly. Breathable fixer. I haven't got much now because it's raining so much. I can't put the tripod out there, so I don't know if I'll film it, but I'll certainly show you afterwards. Okay, well, there we go. Yes, there is still some seepage, but a lot less. And in fact, where there was seepage, and I just gone over it with the second layer, there's almost no seepage. So, as far as I'm concerned now, once this dries tomorrow, this will be ready for the base coat plaster. So it's going to get a base coat, then it's going to get a final coat of plaster, and then it'll get an undercoat, which will probably again be a stain barrier. By then we'll see if anything comes through the plaster. And then it'll get its final white coat, so that hopefully all of the walls will end up sort of looking a bit like this. So there we go. Still horrible and pouring with rain. I'm going to close the shutters to get some of the water out. But yeah, it's pretty grim today. So I'm glad I at least got a little bit done. Well, it's time for a shower and then a beer. So a bit of the pain with all of this rubble now, but what I'm going to do is move it away from the wall. I'm going to leave the carpets down until I finished plastering, and then I think it'll probably be time for new carpets by the time it's time to paint. Yeah, well, you can see sort of it's sealing better, but again you can see there are bits I obviously didn't take out as much earth. It was quite hard to tell what was earth and what was stone by bashing it around. But yeah, well, we're certainly a whole stage further than we were yesterday at this time. And hindsight is always 20/20. I should have done that first, and now I would have just sprayed another layer of this on top, and this would all be sort of white as snow, like that little tiny bit there that's pretty white. Although having said that, it doesn't look bad up at the top. So there we go. Okay, see you all tomorrow. Okay, well, it's another morning, and as you could see, just like that, the rain has stopped. It rained all night. You can hear the water running down through the village, but it stopped. So I got the quad out, and I've got my plaster. So I've got 5 25 kilo sacks, 125 kilos in total, and I'm just going to get it up there. I've already put the mixer in the new kitchen, so I'm going to carry 2 up. And then, then we'll give it a shot, I guess. Okay, well, as you can see, there's still some seepage, but it's much better than it was. I'm going to start on this bit here as my test bed. I'm not sure how far we'll get. Oh, out of breath carrying those 50 kilos up. But I'm just going to give it a go. It'll be interesting to see if anything seeps through in a couple of days while we're still here. So yeah, there's my stuff. Let's get started. Okay, this is what was recommended to me, MS20. So for inside or outside, it's a lime cement mortar. The walls needed to be primed, which they are. So we're pretty much ready to go. I need to apply a minimum of 1 centimetre, and this is not the final plaster. There will be another coat of fine plaster that goes on top. You can see it quite well here. this is what we're going to do now here, and this is then the fine plaster that goes on top. So I've got a little bit of water in there, cut it open. They're 25 kilo bags, so I'll do 2 at once, and then we'll get going. Let me go and get the tripod first. Okay, well, it goes on quite well. So that's about probably a little over a bag. So with my 5 bags I might make the lower half of this wall. Obviously I'm going to need a lot of bags to do the whole thing, but it's going on not too badly. Giving me a bit of a backache, but I think it'll be fine. So I'm going to get another load out of the mixer and keep going. Okay, well, you know, I'm going to say it again, because I said every time I get a bag out, I'm not a plasterer, but this is probably the best plaster work I've ever done. So that's 2 bags. Yeah, it's 2 bags, and bits of it are pretty thick because there were some pretty big dents in there. So it still sort of follows the wall, but it's sort of flat. And in bits it's, you know, a couple of centimetres thick, and in bits it's only a couple of millimetres thick. So I don't know how good that is. We'll have to see. I will knock on it when we're done, and it'll either sound hollow or won't. Hopefully won't. It's similar to what I did in the bedroom, but it's now time to go and get another bag. I'm going to do a single bag and then another 2 bags at the end. And yeah, let's see how far we get. So I guess a single bag will probably sort of finish up that square, maybe a little bit more, and then we can move across. I'd like to get this wall done up to the corner and around the door as much as possible, so that when I come back I can see if anything has come through, if it's, you know, flat and stable and what have you. And then I can go and get the other stuff. It is actually not very expensive. It's about €4 a bag if you buy small quantities, and that'll go down if I buy all of them at once, which will involve going down with the trailer. I think, you know, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, 20, 22, 4, 6, 8, maybe 30 odd bags, something like that. So I've done 2. Okay, well, there goes nothing. Okay, so another bag. We're up to the beam height across. So just got that and down into the corner there, which should easily go on 2 bags. I imagine we'll probably get a little bit more done. So it's doing quite well. It's better now as the first layer of plaster than most of what I've done in the rest of the house ever. So yeah. But I've got to keep cracking because I want to get this sort of in one layer. So I'm going to go and get the last 2 bags of plaster, and I'm going to mix them up. But yeah, no, it looks good. It'll be interesting to see how it looks tomorrow or the day after, once it's dried out a bit, and see if it pulls any smoke-coloured residue through. And it shouldn't really. So yeah, we'll see. Okay, well, there we go. That's 5 bags. So not bad. There were some pretty big holes over here, like the big holes here, but I'm going to fill those, I think, with stone. But now it looks, well, it doesn't look bad at all. And it's just going to be a matter now of leaving it to dry for a few hours. Going over it once more just to sort of smooth out the bits before it's completely dry, so some point this afternoon. And then waiting to see if there's any seepage or if there's any hollow bits, or if it just works the way it's supposed to work. So as you can see, there'll be like a couple of stones, like that stone there, probably that stone there with the nail, a few of the bricks here from around the door that'll sort of stick out. That's just because of the way they are, otherwise you'd have to make a hump. The wall certainly isn't going to be flat when it's finished plastered, but I think it'll look perfect. It'll be very charming and fit in with the kitchen. So yeah, I'm going to go and have a shower. I'm going to go and have some lunch. I'm going to leave this to set. Okay, well, it's been quite a few hours, and there are some bits that have sort of bled through. Not very many. It seems to be where it's very thin. So I'm going to let it dry completely, and then back to the internet to find out what to do. So yeah, it's not easy, and I don't know how deep, because I've scraped everything out. You know, obviously there are still some bits here that will have to come out, and I will go and scrape out some more. But yeah, I think that's basically the solution, is to scrape out as much as possible, which I have done. But there, you see there's a bit there that obviously needs some more scraping. You can only really see it once there's paint on it. Once you start scraping, it becomes quite hard to tell. Over here, it's just that little bit. I think that wall will be fine. And up at the top, we should be pretty good too. And then obviously there'll be some sort of barrier paint, presumably again. Yeah. But other than that, looks great. So yeah, it needs to dry. I've just been and picked up another 8. So that was 5. I think 8 will get me, if I sort of transpose that over onto this wall, 8 should get me that wall completely done. And I got some mortar so that I can fill those holes with bricks, and a couple down there in the corner as well, so that when I come back that'll be dry. So that's all my plan for tomorrow. Halloween, and I'm going to take the kids out trick-or-treating later on, across the village. Yeah, you can see it, actually. You can see quite a few little spots. But it's much better than it has been. I think if we dry it, barrier it, and then do it again, we eventually should be okay. Okay, well, here we are the next morning. I now have a terrible cold. But this has hardened up. It sounds good. And we do have some seepage, as you can see. Not a huge amount, but there is still some there. So what that means is, before I do this wall, because now there's very little seepage here, I'm going to knock off that and that. The stones themselves are fine, it's just the mud. And then that should be fine. I'll do the same just for that little bit there. And I don't think we'll have much of a problem after that, to be honest. But I'm not going to do much today, I don't think, with my cold. What I'm going to do is go and get the cement out of the back of the van, the car rather, and stack it up here. And then I need to bring on all the furniture and everything, because we will be heading back to Austria in the next day or two. So there we go. That's what it looks like. Doesn't look bad. I think it's pretty good for a last layer. But again, some people commented, I think Kills it's called, which sort of will get rid of all staining and odouring and whatever else. There's certainly no smell anymore, despite the fact that I have a cold, but there really isn't. So there we go. Okay, well, after in fact still during the torrential downpour that we've been having for the last almost 48 hours now, a bridge is gone. The river level's gone above 3 meters. I have a terrible cold, but I've decided to climb up above the living room and check, because after the hailstorm we had a lot of water come in, and I want to see how much is there this time. So here goes. Okay, well, up here doesn't look great, but that's seeping in from something the other side of there. I changed these lats here and these tiles, so this bit here is better, but there's still a little drip there. Floor actually, tiny bit there. Doesn't look too bad. Over here, however, there is something going on, and what is it? That's not, it's coming in here. It's very dry, so it's coming in the wall. And that's not going to be something I'm going to be able to fix today. That's a shame. But down here on the top, there's almost nothing. So the last couple of fixes we did have been excellent and really worked well. I left this up here last time. So there's almost no water there. There's a little tiny bit there. I brought the wet and dry back up, but that's almost nothing. I will suck it up anyway, but there's maybe 3 or 4 litres. So this could go on for another week before we had any difficulty at all. So yeah, the only problem I have, a drip there. What's that coming from? It's coming up here somewhere. The real problem here, as I mentioned before, is to do with the spacing of these beams here. That one's okay. That's about the right distance. That's why this is bone dry. But as soon as you put them out that much, they start to sag, and when mechanical tiles sag, they don't seal. When they don't seal, well, water comes in. So something's dripping there, and it's sort of just overflowing a gutter. It might just be a bit of moss or dirt or something. But on the whole, not catastrophic. You see, look, nice new tile there. That's doing its job. Quite a few new tiles down here, down in the bottom. And obviously up here I fixed as well a few times. So it's, yeah, it all really needs doing. That, however, is a bit of a pain. Right, I'm going to hoover, wet back up this, and then head back down. There's nothing catastrophic here, but that's a pain. There's nothing I could do. Even putting a tarp down there wouldn't help because it's seeping into the wall. I'll have to look at that quite soon. Over the other side of that wall is that back building, and that has absolutely no access into its loft space. So I've never been up there, which is a problem. But obviously at the moment the rain is exceptional. Right, let's hoover this up. Okay, well I'm on the other side, and it's well, it's obviously that. There's obviously something wrong. But as you can see, there is no trap up, there's no doorway, there's no way at all, and I've never been up there. So, something I probably should have done this summer is bash a hole or take up some floorboards from below and get up there and have a look. But I can't do that now, so yeah, that will just have to stay there. And hopefully it won't rain too much. I mean, it's not drastic. On the living room side, you see it's just that little fleck there. So it's not huge, and it's not really rolling far down this wall either. Obviously it's coming in from quite high up. But yeah. Well, this room isn't on the plan for a while, but obviously when we're roofing, I could get up there and fix it. I'll just get up there and change tiles. Won't be too hard. How's it looking here? Well, it looks kind of damp in here, but mostly through the windows. I would have thought through that window. The roof here isn't catastrophic. Oh, having said that, there is something coming in there. So yeah, again, this is a roof that was built on top of another roof without taking out the old roof. So this is a nightmare, and will be a nightmare to do. But I don't think it's gotten any worse in the last year or so. You can see where it's dripping from through the gaps. Again, there's just far too much space between the beams, so the tiles hang through. And although this is one of the newer roofs, obviously I haven't been able to get up there and fix much. So there we go. That's the problem. God, what I really wanted to do right now. It doesn't look too bad, it really is just that very localised bit there. Okay, well, there we go. In fact, there's not just that localised bit, there's a bit here as well. Again, it's coming through a roof that's above this roof. You look through that gap, you can see there's a whole other roof up there. And it was lazily built on top, which is a pain. Anyway, there we go, it is what it is. There's the neighbour's house, still no news there, water gushing through that. So this amount of rain is bad news. Okay, well, a couple of weeks have gone by since I filmed that, and you can hear I'm still a little bit bunged up, but I'm much better than I was. It got much worse after that. So yeah, we came back to Innsbruck, and I finally now got round to putting that together. The first snow has fallen, and I'm busy planning the kitchen and planning my next trip out. So so that's going to be it for today's video. Look at this. Such a beautiful house. So yeah, I'm sorry it's been a while, and it's going to be now over the winter more complicated getting videos up, but I will try and get down as often as possible and keep you updated. I'm going to plan the kitchen because, as I said, that I need to run all of the wiring and everything else. Now, I got some great layouts, plans, pictures from various of you. Thank you very much for those. They will all appear in a future video once I've sort of gotten a little bit further with the planning. I'm still hesitating. We were around at some friend's house on Friday, and I got my tape measure out and measured up their kitchen because it was quite good. It was sort of a U-shaped. So yeah, there's still a lot of ideas going on. For now, I hope you're all well. I hope you're less bunged up than I am. And thank you again for watching. Thank you for your support. Thank you for buying me coffees. Thank you for leaving your comments. Thank you for sending me some of you are exceptionally gifted graphic designers, and some of you do lovely little sketches on bits of paper, but it's all great and it's all very valuable, and I think there'll be a sort of a little bit of everyone's in the final kitchen, which would be wonderful, and a great story to tell my kids and my grandkids, hopefully further down the line. So until then, until the next video, I hope you all keep well, take care, and bye-bye for now.